Let's get red to E-Rumble because it's time for the old switcheroo where we're talking gaming retro with Mike and Jaymo.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Jaymo. Join us on our epic quest to research and review all 300 plus games in the Nintendo Classics catalog. Today we are shoving our faces into our first ever Virtual Boy game, the first person puncher Teleroboxer, in an episode we are calling The Sweet Science Fiction, that is. If you like what you hear, don't forget to like, subscribe, and of course, play along. Mike, you know, historically, we do not see eye to eye when it comes to boxing games, right?
We're almost did on Punch Out, but yeah, then it diverges heavily.
It diverges heavily. You took one too many hits with the snake and declared Punch Out better than Super Punch Out, which is categorically wrong. Leave a comment if you're with me. So I think we need a new referee for this boxing game. Do you know anyone with extensive knowledge of old obscure video games?
I think we don't know anyone better for that than Cyril from Defunct Games.
Hey, how's it going? JMO and Mike.
You got it right that time. Good job.
I didn't even attempt it. Call back.
Cyril, congratulations. You were last on our show promoting the complete cheat code compendium.
That's right.
Crossing your fingers at reaching the 100 grand mark. You guys blew right past that here. We're recording this at the end of February 2026, which means you are diving into the process of writing that bad boy. And I was wondering if you could tease anything you've cooked up or planned for those who might not have pre-ordered the book yet and cover kind of what it is, basically.
You're right. We were just a couple of weeks ago. We were hoping to hit 100,000. We did right towards the end of the campaign, but you can still pre-order it now. We hit $108,000, or we're about to $108,000, and this was my first full week of actually working on the book. There's actual writing has been done, and interviews will start next week. This is a very exciting time for me. The complete cheat code compendium, just for those who may not know about it, is just what it sounds like. It's a book about the rise and fall of cheat codes and cheat devices. I've teamed up with Todd Hayes, who, of course, was the co-founder of Interact Accessories. He's the one that brought out the Game Shark. And we're going to look at the history of 100 of the best cheat codes of all time, plus all of the cheat devices like the Game Genie and Game Shark, of course, and just where they went and why they should come back. And that's a book that I am currently writing. So very exciting times.
You're well equipped. And to those who have not been to defunctgames.com, check it out because Cyril has a great fun sense of humor about him. And I'm so excited to see you bring your wit and your charm to the conversation of cheat codes. It's going to be an all-timer. I just know it is.
Yeah, real excited about it.
It's going to be incredible. And you know what's questionably incredible? These 3D games, and they're not going to 3C themselves. So you guys ready to play it loud?
I have a play it loud bag.
Wait, did you say beg or bag?
Bag from the Consumer Electronics Show.
Nice. Yeah, play it loud beg is something different, Mike.
Yes.
Let's give our listeners a quick history on the Virtual Boy, which was originally released in 1995. Have either of you ever had experience with a real life Virtual Boy? I don't. It's been on my bucket list. Mike, I believe you had.
Yeah. We'll start with me because I have much less to say because since JMO, like you owned consoles
Yes.
consistently that were vaguely recent, whereas I had an Atari at home. And it's important to stress this isn't like, oh well, yeah, that was the cutting edge at a point, because that was a hand-me-down Atari that I was playing in the mid 90s. So that's what I had at home, but we would rent systems every so often. Like I remember renting an N64, and actually, like by the end of the weekend, I had blisters because it was basically, well, we have this now. I have to play this nonstop for 48 hours because then it goes away again.
Right.
And so that meant that I was going to, like, I think it might have been Hollywood Video, where you could just, you could rent the whole console. And so when the Virtual Boy came out, like they had a demo one there that you could rent.
Wait, did you rent it during the Blockbuster promotion?
No, that's money. We were still on the cheap end, but they had it there that you could try.
Right. And so you tried it in store.
Yeah, so I would have briefly tried it in store, but that was it. I saw one in person and would have looked through it and played briefly, but not. It never came home with me.
Okay, I know our friend Larry Blast from the Past store had Virtual Boy in stock at some point, so I was wondering if maybe you played it when they had it there. But Cyril, you played probably more Virtual Boy than either of us, right?
I have actually a lot of Virtual Boy experience, starting before it actually even came out, just to show how old I am. One of the very first video game conventions I ever went to was the Winter Consumer Electronics Show in the mid 90s. And one of the 3 times I went in 95 was when they introduced the Virtual Boy for the first time in the US, just a few months before it launched. They had announced it a few months before that at the Tokyo Game Show, but this was the first American debut. They used a geodesic dome to get everybody into this like tight, dark area so that everybody could have a perfect experience with it. And it's the same geodesic dome that they had used to promote Star Fox a couple years earlier. And I remember standing in line for most of that day to get in there. I remember the reaction. Real fun story about it, because we're in there for, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes, jumping from kiosk to kiosk and Teleroboxer, and there were a couple other games on the Galactic Pinball and a couple other ones. I made a video about it, but the after, I don't know if I can curse here.
We try not to, but have fun.
I would say treat it like a garnish.
All right. Well, I'm going to use my one here because it's the one thing I remember. On our way out of that dark geodesic dome, we get into the bright lights. We're, this is Vegas, in a tent in Vegas. We get out there. It's sunny. It's bright. You can barely see anything. We're all kind of, we're all rubbing our eyes. And then one guy got a look at the press kit that they had handed everybody. And he says, $200. Oh, fuck that. And that is the first thing I think of when I think of the Virtual Boy. I didn't buy one when it first came out, but about a year after it came out, Walmart and probably Blockbuster were liquidating them. It was priced to move, and I remember picking it up with the Mario's Tennis game for $30 at Walmart as they were getting rid of them, and I still own that unit. It still works. I picked up a few of the other games like the Wario Land and stuff like that. But yeah, I actually have a real good experience with it. When people come over, people that ooh and ah my collection of old systems, 8 out of 10 times they point at the Virtual Boy and want to try it.
Yeah.
So it is a novelty, but it is attractive. It's something people want to look at.
Yeah, it has almost a mythos about it at this point.
Yeah.
So let's kind of go over a bit essentially what it is. As explained in the awesome YouTube channel Slow Mo Guys, the console creates a parallax 3D effect by projecting a single line of red pixels into a pair of rapidly oscillating mirrors that bounce the light directly into your eyeball. So, Cyril, I've heard this thing is kind of noisy in real life. Like it hums from the vibration of the mirrors, right?
I don't know if noisy is the no, I wouldn't. I mean, especially compared to modern consoles. No, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that noisy.
Okay.
What was it? Pixels or LEDs?
Well, today I learned there's a difference. Well, we'll link the video if you want to check out for yourself, but it's kind of like if I called it like a kind of a high-tech flip book happening in your eyes, is that kind of the science behind it, Mike?
I wouldn't describe as a flip book because a flip book you're seeing like each image is its own image. I would actually say this is much closer to honestly, it's doing the same thing as what like a CRT TV did, which people don't really think about that like the old CRT TVs, the reason they got deeper the larger the pictures the screens got was that they have basically an electron gun that is steering with magnets basically, but it's sort of sending out each spot on the screen at a time, row by row, and
Okay.
just is doing that very fast, multiple times a second. So it's actually rebuilding the image constantly.
Wow.
Not quite row by row, but more spot by spot, but it goes one row at a time. And so, and that's why as you get a bigger screen, they have to get deeper because it can't kick out to very large angles. So you have to move that gun further and further back from the screen.
Right.
But yeah, so like with that kind of, you know, and anything with images, really, you're having to build some way. It's not just the whole image is there.
Right.
So it was amazing to watch that video and see this broken down
Yeah.
because it was so cool to see how that was working. And I think the other fascinating part to that was I think actually it actually is covering each image with multiple passes to allow you to get lighter and darker shading in. It's not just two tone.
Right. Yeah, and I think that shows in the visuals. Cyril, it sounded like you had something to say about the tech.
Well, I don't know about the tech, but I'm not a big tech guy. I leave that for the experts. I just play the games. For me, it always reminded me, and maybe it's just because of the wireframe stuff in like Red Alarm and some of the other games, but it always reminded me of like a next generation version of vector graphics or like Vectrex and stuff like that from back in the day.
It kind of blew my mind because this is a 32-bit console, and in my head, Nintendo skipped that generation.
Well, the Game Boy Advance was also 32-bit.
No, I guess it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think of it that way. So according to the book The Ultimate History of Video Games by Stephen Kent, the tech was developed by Massachusetts-based Reflection Technology Incorporated. Sega passed on the concept because they were concerned about potential motion sickness and the single color red display, which was chosen because red lights are, I guess, more recognizable to the eye and cheaper to manufacture. Mike, confirm, deny, red light.
I mean, I would say I think like blue LEDs took a while, and red is pretty easy, pretty
Mm-hmm.
common to do. Like, so I'm not surprised by that.
I guess this is why it's red lights, is because your eye sees that the easiest, so that's why red light is stop.
I mean, I'm going to say that isn't because I don't know if people that were colorblind could necessarily use this.
Mm.
Oh,
Because I've
what?
actually been in
That never
situation.
came up in the old in like the old magazines or anything. Nobody ever asked that question.
Yeah, and I say it because I have been in situations where, for safety reasons, areas that are dark but need to have like a step lit or something that aren't using red specifically because it create there are some people who will not pick up
Right.
red.
Huh, never even thought of that.
I hadn't thought of that one either.
Leave a
So
comment if you're colorblind
Yeah.
and tell us what it's like trying to boot up the Virtual Boy. I
Wow.
will say though, for those who haven't seen footage of it, like it's so distinct. It's just
Yes.
black, red on black, and there's no other console in history that's had that like color scheme, so it kind of makes it instantly recognizable. So back in the day, Nintendo eagerly partnered with RTI because they felt the tech was unique and difficult to emulate regarding competitors. So going full send on the concept, Nintendo constructed a dedicated manufacturing facility in China, but development troubles arose when the Product Liability Act of 1995 made Nintendo more vulnerable to litigation should customers become negatively affected. So they abandoned the initially planned head tracking features as well as the promised head strap version that you could just wear, leading to the heavy table mounted iteration we have before us today. So, Cyril, you have the Virtual Boy in your home right now. It's
Mm-hmm.
apparently quite hefty.
Yeah, I mean it's lighter than my PlayStation 5, but it's real top heavy, so it can get knocked over pretty easily.
Yeah.
And also, just to kind of double back for a little context, you said that Sega passed on it. You have to remember at the time, Sega was working on their own VR thing for the Genesis.
Right.
They had announced, and then one of the CESs I went to, they were showing off some of the tech that was going to be for what was a thing that never came out, their Genesis virtual reality. And obviously, knowing what we know about virtual reality now, it was very ambitious to try that with a 16-bit system in the mid 1990s. I mean, we really didn't get to real virtual reality until, let's be honest, 20 years later, maybe even 25 years later. So I don't know. But yeah, that I can see why they would pass on something like this. And really, one of the only reasons that the Nintendo even went with this was it had a champion. It had Gunpei was championing this thing, and he had just come off of the wildly successful Game Boy. So of course you got to go with it. He left the company 1 year later, and then died almost immediately after that.
Yeah, it's kind of sad. Gunpei Yokoi, for those that don't know, the inventor of the D-pad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to also look back, because I had a chance to do a quick check. So yeah, so this is using LEDs specifically.
Okay.
And so the thing that I would distinguish with that from the very electronic side of things, LEDs give out light at specific wavelengths. And so the cheap ones that were easily available to work with were red. There was very much a challenge to broaden out LEDs to other colors. Like at this point, a lot, that's come a long way, but earlier LEDs really were just red, which is, I think, a big part of why you think about most things that have an LED as like a power light kind of stuff. They all tend towards red. And I think that is just simply because that is cheap, easily made. Because I want to say, I thought I had seen something that at some point they were going to at least try to have two colors to this rather than just red.
Yeah.
And that gets into this thing of like where you would at least get further towards having color, which actually it would have been interesting if they had done that, because I think people hear that and go, okay, well, it's just going to have two colors, but really what you've done is gotten a whole bunch of other shades sort of doable.
Yeah.
Which kind of reminds me, like, very early color movies are very weird, because you start paying attention, you start to realize that they don't actually have full colors. They have a couple colors. And so I think it's like red and green, and they don't have other stuff, but you can get things where those mix.
Yeah.
And so at first glance, it's just like, oh yeah, this isn't color. And you start to be like, wait, no, but there's colors that they don't have. But you don't notice it as, oh, this is just two colors. You notice it as, this is missing colors eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. You kind of start to see the matrix.
Yeah. You start going like, wait a minute.
So you are correct. So there were prototypes that had multiple colors, and by Nintendo's estimates, it would have cost $1,000. Now, not $1,000.95, but like today's equivalent. So they were just like, we can't sell a console for, a household destroying amount. So they
couldn't
went with
even
the
sell
one.
it for 200.
That's true. So one of the biggest challenges was marketing this thing. They couldn't show on television ads or in magazine ads or really any kind of ad what that 3D effect looked like. So they partnered with Blockbuster and sent out almost 1 million units, offering to let people rent it for 3 nights for $9.99. You would get 2 games and a coupon for $10 off the console. So essentially, if you end up buying it, the rental is free. But this is widely seen as a disaster because enough people were able to try it to decide that it wasn't worth the high price tag. And so this marketing strategy might have actually hurt them more than helped them.
And then let's also not forget that at this point, Nintendo knew what the Japanese reaction was. And it had been a similar reaction where people were buying it and then almost immediately returning it.
Oh.
And there's rumors that some of those Japanese systems made their way to the US. It just wasn't selling. So at this point, they knew they had a stinker. Around this time was when they decided not to launch it in Europe, which they had been planning on doing. And so it just never made it to Europe. So I think that by the time the American version came out, they had a inkling that this might not be their big system, but they didn't care, because at that point they thought, okay, we have the Nintendo 64 coming out in 1995. At that point it was called the Ultra 64, but that was going to come out in 1995. It got delayed to 96, but still they're like, all right, we as soon as that comes out, that's going to be the big thing. We'll be back at number one. Didn't quite work out that way, but was definitely way more successful than the Virtual Boy.
Yeah.
And it made people forget about the Virtual Boy. By 96, by the time Super Mario 64 came out, nobody remembered the Virtual Boy.
And not surprising, it is easily Nintendo's worst selling console, and it's not close. It sold an estimated 770,000 units, which for comparison, their second worst selling console, the Wii U, sold 13 million.
No, hold on here.
Eh?
You're not considering the Nintendo 64 DD its own thing. It had its own games.
Okay, but it didn't get a
Do we
worldwide.
count the Sega CD as a main or as a different system?
No,
I do.
That's an add-on.
I don't know. It has its own games though.
Sure.
I
sure.
think the DD. How many did that sell? That's got to be low. That's got to be lower than 800,000.
I'm not sure. But this was to clarify Nintendo, so I didn't get Sega CD factored in there. Well, you know what?
Well, the DD, the Nintendo 64 DD.
Yeah, the disk drive. Yeah. So, despite all this infamy, Nintendo shocked the world on September 12th, 2025, when it announced that the Virtual Boy was coming to Nintendo Classics. So, as described on NintenDON'T, gear up for stereoscopic 3D viewing with this dedicated accessory. Replicates the original Virtual Boy experience with this add-on accessory for the Nintendo Switch 2 or Nintendo Switch system, each sold separately. Simply insert your system into the accessory, pick up your Joy-Con or Joy-Con 2 controllers, and get ready for classic gaming. NintenDON'T offers two models of the Virtual Boy for Nintendo Switch, a plastic and metal recreation of the original hardware, or I should say the original shell, minus the hardware, for $9.99. Sorry, I wish. $99.99, $100, and a handheld cardboard version for $24.99. So, Mike, which one did you end up picking up?
So I hate using the Switch as a handheld to begin
Yes,
with. So
and
I
I
did
love
not bother with the cardboard thing.
Yeah.
So for better or worse, I went with the replica of the original thing.
Yes. Okay. And let's talk first about the Joy Pros and Joy Cons of these products here. What do you like about it, Mike?
I like that they made these games available in some capacity. I think that is actually a good thing to do.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm appreciative of that, of even to the extent of at least one game which was never released in the US, even if we're going to count the Virtual Boy as a release.
Yeah.
I appreciate them viewing it as that, as like we're making things accessible that otherwise wouldn't have been.
Right.
And I guess that I could remap controls for individual games because we'll talk more about that later, but it struggles with that.
Yeah. Well, talking specifically about the peripherals themselves, I think that the 3D effect is actually pretty good. Like I was surprised at how crisp it looked, how good it looked. There's some nice lenses here. I'll get to it in a little bit later, but I tried a knockoff VR headset, and there's something about the quality of the lenses in the official Nintendo peripheral that I think really makes it nice. And like, there's some nice attention to detail. They really recreated the original look, Cyril, with like fake focus and IPD sliders. They don't actually move. But they put that in there. They really tried to make this feel like something that was just plucked out of time.
Yeah, actually, I will give that. I think the 3D look, if we're going to count that as with the peripheral, because I kind of quite wasn't, the 3D look worked.
Yeah, and better than I expected. I thought it was going to be kind of rough, So that was pleasantly surprising. And also, it's funny, the Virtual Boy's big innovation is presenting the 3D image to your eyes, but I almost remember the sound effects of today's games more because, the peripheral has little holes in the bottom so that your Switch 2, its butt is hanging out and the speakers are right there next to your face. Same thing with the cardboard version. And so, I kind of got some stereoscopic sort of 3D sound going on with Teleroboxer that I thought was pretty neat. Should we talk about the controller? I feel like that's a good point to talk about the controller because Cyril, you own this thing. We don't. One of the bummers is that they did not recreate the Virtual Boy controller, but it's very unique.
Oh, they didn't.
No, you only get the shell. You got to use your regular controller, which it's just like you went through so much trouble to make this look like the real thing. But like I would have wished, this is gonna be a very first world problem with me, but I would have wished to pay 50 more bucks and get a controller, right, Mike? Like, that's
I would
interesting.
say like $10 more, but yes.
Okay. So, Cyril, can you speak to the Virtual Boy controller? Because I think it's kind of interesting.
I like the controller. I like that it's actually pretty comfortable. It's way more comfortable in my hands than the Nintendo 64 controller that came out a year later. But it has it kind of reminds me of where modern controls went with the dual pad, even though these are both D pads. Um, I like the Lynx also did this where some games you could do left-handed or right-handed. That's something that you didn't see going into the future very much. And even though Teleroboxer is not a good example of that, I like controllers that kind of can give you that functionality. But I think it's comfortable, and it has a short cord, but you don't need it to go very very far. No, I like the controller. I think it's one of I get into some trouble because I have some strong opinions about how Nintendo has screwed up some controllers in the past. I'm not a big fan of the Joy-Cons, for example.
Okay.
I like this maybe not as much as the Super Nintendo controller, but I this is in my top, maybe the top half for Nintendo at least.
And so with the original controller, so you've got almost sort of like a handle on either side. You've got D-pads on either side. You've got
Mhm.
two buttons on either side, and then you've got like was the remaining like a pair of triggers or
Yeah,
gun?
on the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think that would have been a good controller to have in part because the Switch controller has a D-pad on either side in effect,
Mm-hmm.
but then does not have an additional two buttons on either side.
On either side, right. Yeah. So I am worried about this being an issue for some games going forward if they make creative use of that select and pause button. But like Cyril said, though, the fact that it's like a perfectly symmetrical controller is interesting for accessibility. Like it's one of
Yeah.
the best controllers for lefties, and you could actually remap the controls to just be, okay, let's, use the other side of the controller. I hate almost everything about these peripherals. These are really bad. Oh my God. I've been in pain for weeks.
I had to look up, and I think this is part that you talk about that it has sort of like some of the adjustment controls from the original console on there
Yeah.
to replicate. Like they tried to replicate this visually so much, and do not understand font sizes on their packaging and
Okay.
don't come with additional instructions. I had to look up a video on just how to open the freaking thing so that I didn't break it because the
Oh
diagram
no.
made it look like there's a switch on the side kind of thing because that's where they put the like motion arrow to open it up. Like I got this thing and I'm just like, I legitimately do not know how I'm supposed to how I'm supposed to open this to put the switch in it.
And to be
Oh
clear, you're an
no.
astrophysicist.
Yeah, like it's like I do not want to have spent $100 and the first thing I do is I snap plastic because I think something's supposed to move that does not is not supposed to move.
Yeah. And it's really uncomfortable to get it into a nice position because you can't adjust the length of the stand. I was expecting to be able to pull on these legs and get it to a comfortable height.
No.
No,
No.
Cyril.
No, hold on. You've seen how uncomfortable people look when they're using the system in the past, right?
I thought they would at least make the form factor not physically painful in 2026.
No.
S-
I'm assuming that they're it's still top heavy with the Switch in it.
Yeah.
100%.
I feel
Yeah.
like they could have kept the like I don't think anybody remembers fondly what the stand looked like.
Right.
I think everyone remembers the top part. Just keep the top part and have a better stand.
You're so effed up. You call it the top part. There you go. A little John Mulaney virality there. So, and on the official Nintendo Direct where they revealed these things, they showed the spokesperson hunching down into it. So that's how I was
Mhm.
playing. It didn't occur to me that you should make it tilt up and you stick your face down into it. How
Right.
do you play? Mike, do you hunch or do you look?
It's sort of hunch. I can't get. I mean, I can't even tilting it isn't enough. Like part of the frustration with this is like I don't have anywhere that I can actually play this comfortably.
Right.
Like I was kind of having to play the game of what boxes do I have that appear to be the right height,
I
which
did that
is
too.
shouldn't be a part of this.
No.
Now, remember that when this first came out, this was primarily marketed at younger people. Now, that is not great because it also has warnings about younger people playing it because it could actually hurt developing eyes. So that was a flaw. But, you have to put yourself in the mindset of a smaller body.
Sure, sure. But I'm not the biggest guy. I'm a short king. You know what I mean? Like, there's not a huge difference in size between me and a kid. So, yeah, that was really disappointing. I'm totally baffled at the fact that the $100 version came with a set of red lenses because the graphics are already red. And if you take the lenses out, it looks much better. Mike, you're making a face like you didn't realize those were in there.
I didn't realize that the graphics were red
Yeah,
because the end screen that I'll complain about is white text
yeah.
and but looks red through there. And because that's the only bit that I like, I didn't bother to try to run stuff with it out of the machine. So that's the only thing that one of the only things I saw both in and out,
Right.
and just presumed they had just made everything white and then did that.
Yeah. But it's so strange because the cardboard version doesn't come with the red lenses. And so it's like, what is the point of the red lenses? They're going to release a patch that lets you change the colors. You can change it to white, you can change it to yellow. There's different hues you can choose from. And so you would take out the red lenses, but I don't understand why they even bothered with those things. Like, is there any way? Because without it, the blacks look darker, right? And the red is crisper. And I'm like, is this going to hurt my eyes more? Does having the weird red fog over everything make it less crisp and painful to the eyes? Is there any science to that?
I'm wondering if it's doing any sort of additional adjustment that I'm just not aware of.
But if it is, though, again, why wouldn't you include it with the cardboard version? Like, clearly you have released a version that doesn't think this is essential. So, Cyril, the original console,
Mhm.
headphone jack?
I could go grab it. I don't think so.
Because what's insane to me is that the cardboard version has a cable pass through for wired headphones.
Okay.
The $100 version does not. So you have to play it open, somehow looking even stupider.
Now, okay, hold on. Now, I've never actually, even though I am a Virtual Boy owner, I've never actually played it with another person. Now, did they? I know they intended to release a cable, sort of like the Game Boy, that let you link them up. But in my memory, I'm trying to remember. I don't think they did. Right?
No.
There's no actual. Maybe like Mario's Tennis has a mode in it somewhere where it's supposed to have two players, but I don't remember them actually selling that cable.
And it's actually interesting because through researching for the game we're about to talk about, I learned a new term that drives me insane called fanonical. Have you guys heard of fanonical logic?
No.
No.
It's when people talk about a game or a movie that doesn't exist. It's not a fan film. They didn't even write a script for it. They just create wiki entries for games that they've imagined. And people like discuss them on message boards and like update the wikis and have debates about it. And it's so there was a canonical sequel to Teleroboxer referring to like a two-player mode. And I was like, oh, freaking sweet. Mike and I can wait. Oh, this isn't a real thing by any stretch of the imagination.
Man, people have way too much time on their hands. Huh?
Something, Cyril. It really annoyed me. So,
I'm also say as much as like I get some level of like, okay, you made these peripherals. Many of these games, you can argue they have just had to like port, and they're just porting it, and they're not doing any kind of development.
Right.
And I say that with the context of we have already covered they had to come up with a different way of how this outputs images because this is a screen and not a single row of LEDs with mirrors flickering back and forth.
correct.
So they already were having to develop a new way that this outputs images.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
There is no reason that they couldn't have also allowed for a mode that just shows you a non 3D image
Yeah.
and can play this and experience the games. If, for example, you would like to play this docked
Yeah.
and just play it that way, like and especially like at this point, I don't think you can make a case of like, yes, you gain something out of the 3D, and there's people who will care, but you should be able to play this 2D because that works perfectly fine. You already had to adjust the output. You could very easily just be like, you know what, just output the left side as a single screen if it's, if someone wants it to be that.
Yeah, and emulation on other systems, on other, on computer and stuff like that for the Virtual Boy let you do that. Like you don't have to have the dual screen, or you don't have to have it in 3D or anything like that. And most of the games, especially like the game we're going to talk about today, most of the games work just fine. You don't need, it's a value added thing with Wario Land to have, the 3D effect. That's pretty cool, but I mean, it's not essential. The only one where I would even argue that it might be essential is Red Alarm, because playing that in 2D is a nightmare. But of course, I don't know if you guys tried that one. Playing that in 3D, also a nightmare.
It's slightly less so. Yeah, knowing Nintendo, I feel like they just because they can't be making a lot of money on these things. I don't think it was we want to sell these things. I think it was like we want people to get the authentic experience. But
I
Matt,
I just feel like the program for this was just much more thrown together because like I'm also super annoyed just because it's frustrating every time that every time I try to exit out of this, I can't easily exit out of this.
yes, it says you have to take it out of the stand and use the touchscreen for some reason.
Yeah, I shouldn't need to do that.
No.
Oh, Nintendo.
Yeah, because also what happens is like I put it back in the dock and go sit down, and then I can't get. It's like, oh yeah, right, I can't play anything because I need to go touch a screen on the other side of the room now.
It's so wild. And then you can't stream this thing because if
Right.
it detects any kind of interaction with the USB-C, it's like, oh, you're not in handheld mode, shut down. Ah, panic, crash, right? Leading my father and I this morning to create the first ever Capture Boy. We have created what is essentially a dark room for the Switch with a small hole in the lid, like a pinhole camera, so that I can use my phone to record what's on my Switch 2 screen with no glare.
Can we workshop the name?
Yeah, I'm not on the list, just to be clear. But yeah, so originally the prototype was a Frito-Lay variety box, but like it's just insane that I'm having to jump through all these hoops. And it's like, Nintendo, don't you want people to see the games? Don't you understand that when people stream games, that's good for your business? Like, what are you doing, Nintendo? So, Nintendo or dat, I gotta say, definitely don't try. I got some bad advice on Reddit and bought one of the third-party Switch 2 headsets where it straps your Switch 2 to your face. This is by far the worst option because the Switch 2 is so heavy. Pressing down on my nose, Cyril, I felt like I was suffocating and it left me with really painful lines on my forehead.
Oh no.
I barely made it out of this thing alive. Wildly, according to the YouTuber Demeech, the most comfortable way to play the Virtual Boy is to almost take it into bed with you like a lover and lay it across your body so that like you're on your back, your head's propped up by pillows, and the Virtual Boy is resting on your face. That way, you can play it without using the Joy-Cons next to your ears. That's what happens if you're playing the cardboard model. You get a real controller and you can kind of prop it up with your hands. But I'm so glad I'm married, you guys. I would never want to be caught dead playing video games like this. This is insane, Nintendo.
That's embarrassing.
You heard it here first. Don't take a Virtual Boy to bed.
There you go. Or any variety. So that might not make
Well,
the cut. That
one
might
thing
not make the
I
cut.
do appreciate though is that Nintendo, when they did surprise everybody by announcing it for the Nintendo Classics, they actually did show footage, 2D footage, but they showed footage, unlike the old advertisements. And did you guys look at the old advertisements?
Yeah, I saw the caveman ones.
Well, there's two of them. There's both of them are kind of they're sort of in this weird dystopian post-apocalyptic hellscape world where when one of them has it, like the machine is this giant like Terminator style robot that's going around the countryside looking for humans and targeting humans. And this is the second time Nintendo did this. They also did this with the Game Boy a few years earlier, 6 years earlier, when they released that in the US. Do you remember that? The first ad for that was like a robot in a post-apocalyptic world giving a Game Boy and playing Tetris with a human. And Nintendo has this weird, like with all their portables, they have this weird obsession with dystopian or like post-apocalyptic worlds. And I don't get it.
You know what's hilarious about that ad though, Mike? Have you seen the commercial?
Which one?
The one where the Virtual Boy is chasing down the boy in the post-apocalyptic land.
Actually, was a clip of that in Cyril's stuff?
Yeah.
So yes, I've seen that. Check out Cyril's stuff. He has things that we talk about.
Yeah, defunctgames.com or on YouTube. So they make the Virtual Boy look like some kind of like ATST, right? Chasing down this guy. And my first thought watching that was like, wow, look at how long the legs are on that thing. That would have been nice. Would have been nice to have a Virtual Boy with a little freaking reach. But I know that we have some members of our Discord. And by the way, www.theoldswitcharoo.com if you want to join our Discord and talk about pretty much anything. They're kind of debating about what version they should buy. So I gotta say, NintenDON'T. I feel like for curiosity's sake, the $25 model is probably the way to go, unless you're willing to look real stupid. But yeah, it's a whole thing.
Did I hear correctly that the Labo thing also works?
Yes, the Labo does indeed work. Yeah.
Did you try that out?
And unfortunately, I got rid of that. I didn't keep it
Okay.
around because all the Labo stuff was taking a lot of room in my one closet.
Of
So
course.
would have loved to have tried it. But it is cool. I'm excited for people to, get more use out of that Labo VR set. And that was actually my last Joy-Con, is that I was literally giddy with the idea of building this Virtual Boy headset. I love building Labos. It's the best part of that product. And so when it came pre-constructed, I kind of was a little crestfallen. It felt like buying Legos and it was built for you already. It wasn't advertised as Labo. I guess that's technically my bad. But every other cardboard peripheral has been this really fun, snap together experience. So I was kind of bummed.
There is also, and I think I talked about it in advance as well. I'm kind of disappointed that I didn't see anyone that was just seemed to be really doing like okay, we're doing a much more comfortable, cheaper version of this because it's really just a holder.
Like on Etsy, like a 3D printed something.
Yeah.
Hey, there's room to be had. And I don't know, maybe Cyril knows a peripheral maker or two. But anyway, um, are we ready? I think post-apocalyptic robots is a perfect segue into our first ever Virtual Boy game. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
Let's do it.
All right, so let's dive into Teleroboxer, released on the Virtual Boy in 1995. According to Nintendo Classics, it's time for the Teleroboxing Tournament. Become the champion in this sports game released for the Virtual Boy system in 1995. Enter the 22nd century where a futuristic sport called Teleroboxing is all the rage, pitting remote-controlled robots against each other. You are a Teleroboxer, a player controlling their robot and aiming for the top. Dodge intense 3D attacks that come flying your way and knock out your foes with different combos. For example, if you spot a big opening in your opponent's defenses, that's your chance to sock him with a powerful machine gun attack. Let's take a look at the box art since, I don't think Teleroboxer was someone's first impression, but it was a launch title, right, Cyril? Pretty sure it was.
I think so. It was definitely one of the first ones.
So this is a super striking image, and I'm pretty into it. Mike, would you describe it for our listeners?
Yeah, so we have a robot with a right jab coming right at you, kind of with Teleroboxer as like the brass knuckles on what are already steel knuckles, which is sort of a hat on a hat, but does visually work.
I think it's pretty sick. Like, I'm a fan of this. Cyril, you with us?
Sort of.
Okay.
This is an okay box. I think it's striking. It looks good. My issue with it is that the robots don't necessarily look like that. And I actually think the robot designs that they have in the game are better.
Yeah.
It feels like this is more designed for the American audience. Like,
Yeah.
we're going to make the robot look real tough. And I don't feel like the robots in the game are sort of that machismo.
Yeah. For some reason, it kind of reminds me of News of the World by Queen. I mean, not for some reason. It's obviously because of the giant robot. It's not like there's a different reason. But
there's something about this giant robot that makes me think of giant robots.
Yeah. And I don't think the Japanese cover is necessarily a whole lot better.
Okay.
So I think this design, but maybe with one of the better robots, would have, maybe I would like it more, but that is nitpicking.
Yeah, this like the robot design kind of just has a very stern looking face, and it doesn't have sort of the more stylized caricature-y elements of the robots in this.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, it's kind of more generic sort of Frankenstein. So the only real trivia I have on this game is that it has a little hidden cheat code in the starting cutscene. Or I don't know, Cyril, Mr. Cheat Code, you tell us.
No.
What?
Buy the book.
Good idea. Good idea.
My book.
Yeah. Well, so in the opening cutscene, when you're seeing your player character standing in front of his Teleroboxer robot, there's no indication of this, but it's controllable. If you hit the punch buttons, the cutscene will punch. Kind of like Mario's face in the beginning of Super Mario 64. Would you count those as cheat codes, little hidden menu interactions? I think I would.
I would. Yeah.
So Cyril, did you have any memories of this game in particular, or how it was advertised?
I don't remember it being advertised.
Yeah, independently, just attached to the Virtual Boy.
I remember it from it was basically the showpiece game at the Winter Consumer Electronics Show.
Yeah.
And it's as a fan of Punch Out, or when I played it, Mike Tyson's Punch Out, I was a big fan of that. So this caught my eye, even though I'm not a big boxing fan. But yeah, no, right off the bat, this was one of the ones that I was real excited to actually play. And because it's visually striking in a way that most of the other ones aren't.
You're being visually struck.
Yeah. And you have to also remember that a lot of the other stuff that was coming out, we got Mario's Tennis, which, visually is what it is. But Mario Clash is basically just Mario Brothers with 3D elements. And that's not that exciting. So this actually felt like a new Nintendo game with actual new Nintendo characters.
Yeah.
That's one of the things. I actually have a bunch of things that I think this game gets right. It's not a perfect game by any stretch of the imagination. But as a Virtual Boy game 30 years later, I think it's pretty good.
So have you ever beaten it?
I have beaten it, but here's what I have not done, and I had to actually look this up. I didn't to actually beat to get to the eighth character, the cat boxer at the very end. You have to beat the first 7 without ever dying.
Yes.
Or ever losing, yeah. And that is real tough. This game's tough. This game's hard. It's one of Nintendo's hardest games, I would argue.
So I need a judgment call from Mike, because Mike, you didn't beat it, I'm assuming.
God, no. We're gonna
okay. I didn't mean that insultingly, but like you said, the game's hard and you're playing like an honest man. Am I playing the sound effect for Cyril? Because at the end of the game, it makes it very clear that you're not done.
Yeah.
So did he beat it?
I mean, did it say, what did it say to you? Did it say you beat it?
It said congratulations, but you're not the champion.
Yes.
Did you get credits?
Yeah, I think there's still credits.
You get credits. I think you get it.
It's a bad ending. I got the bad ending.
Fair enough.
And there's a good ending. The good ending's not that much better, but
well, you Nintendo did get the bad ending.
Nintendo.
I'm happy because the credits actually have a pretty cool thing where you can punch the pictures of the developers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that did look fun.
Yeah, they get all beat up. Oh, so Mike, you watched a Let's Play or a speed run?
Yeah, I watched the speed run on this is like 2.5 minutes.
Wow, that's actually probably pretty cool. Well, so I also got to the bad ending, and at this point, my neck is hurting, my eyes are hurting. I'm
Mhm.
like, oh my God, it's finally over. You got to do it all over again, you loser. And it's funny because like normally I cheat so much that I would never have ever accepted a loss, but I was kind of trying to learn the game. And it's like, a boxing. Like it's really funny to play this because I VR box all the time on my
Mhm.
MetaQuest. It's one of my favorite games. It's my favorite way to get a workout. So to be playing another VR boxing that was so different, but also in a lot of ways really similar, it was really fun. So I was actually excited after the initial, like, oh my God, I gotta stick my face in this thing again because I wasn't quite ready to be done with the game.
Mhm.
Mike's gonna take that one out of context. So I was actually excited because I didn't quite feel like I was done with it, and I love the hidden final boss. So I'm proud to say that I Nintendo did get the good ending.
Nice. Computer.
And when you were on our show last time, Cyril, you were like, "I don't think you're gonna beat it," and I was like, "Come on, you boy, come
I
on."
mean, the third mech's the tough one. I feel like after you get past that one, I'm not saying it's smooth sailing, but it is smoother sailing. Like the storm is over.
I would disagree. I think the second to last and last boss are pretty dang tough. But so let's get into what we like about the game. Cyril, you had mentioned that you thought like there were some new Nintendo characters. So are you with me that these robots are pretty cool opponents?
Yeah, I think the character designs are pretty good, and I think that we're sort of sidestepping. I think what is a key part of this game is who directed this, and that's Yoshio Sakamoto. And now he started with Nintendo in the early 80s with he worked on the Game and Watch, but more importantly, he's worked on a bunch of stuff that's on the Nintendo Switch online, like Wrecking Crew and Kid Icarus in the early days. He's the one that directed and put and programmed those Famicom Detective Club games. There was just I think they remade those MEO the Smiling Man on the Switch recently. But he also directed Balloon Kid and Gumshoe, but also Super Metroid. Like he went from like he was hot off of this and did Super Metroid, or maybe he did Super Metroid right before. I forget the timing, but the like he is a good developer. This is not just thrown together by somebody at Nintendo that you've never heard of. Like he did a bunch of Metroid games, and I think you see some of that Nintendo love come through with the character designs and some of the I don't know if you read there was a Nintendo Power spread that really went into the details and the mythology and the lore of all these characters, and I think a lot of that's pretty fun, and I think that Nintendo probably could have done something more with this if they had unshackled it from the Virtual Boy and put it on. I mean, imagine a Wii version where you're actually using the Wii controls, like the motion controls. I'm surprised they didn't do that, though. They did do that with Punch Out, and maybe that was just that was a better IP for them.
Well, I think this is very much the spiritual forebear to ARMS,
Definitely.
which is a Switch game that I adore. Mike, did you ever pick up ARMS? Did you ever take up ARMS, Mike?
Oh boy.
That's going to be on a list. I have never heard of it.
It's a Switch. It was a Switch. If it wasn't a launch title, it was soon after the Switch launched. A boxing game
Yeah.
where you play as robots with slinky arms. And so you punch with the Joy-Con, or you can use controls like you would like to. But if you punch with the Joy-Con, your character has a big long arm that goes across. So it's like imagine Teleroboxer in a big 3D arena.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's crazy though that like none of the Teleroboxers get a shout out in that series. No mention of them in Smash, but these are cool characters. Like I felt like although of course more opponents would have been welcome, I think that each of the eight have a really distinct personality that I really enjoyed. One of the highlights was Bomb Coon.
Yeah.
So Mike, how many of these did you see, Mike?
I saw two.
Okay, so you got to the bear slash gorilla.
I got through the first one, took an attempt or two, And then after like 20 losses to the second one and never having any fun and feeling like what I was doing, button presses didn't seem to be doing what I wanted them to.
Okay.
It was feeling too much like a punishment.
So you walked away.
Yeah. It got slightly better when I made the mistake of jumping into the game before taking a look at the manual. And so realizing that I was playing I was literally playing with one hand behind my back.
Yeah.
In that, because it uses both D-pads, and
Oh.
I didn't have the right D-pad until I went and remapped them. So I could only, I couldn't dodge to the right.
What do you mean you didn't have the right D-pad? I don't understand.
By default, like your motion controls aren't on the D-pad. They're on the joystick.
I thought they were on both.
Nope.
Oh, you usually use the D-pad on the left side?
Yeah, because I'm trying to do specific directions.
Oh, okay.
And I've every single game that I've attempted to try to, like, for stuff like the NES stuff that just puts it on both. I always have issues with trying to use the joystick on things that were designed for D-pad, and I use the buttons.
That's hilarious. I never use the button. I hate using the D-pad buttons on the Joy-Con. That's so funny. Okay, so your initial impression was pretty lousy.
Yeah, it's like something was wrong. It's like, okay, here's the problem. Where are those controls? And then so I remapped them all.
Any better luck?
Basically, no. Actually, one of the closest times I came, I wasn't even watching. I was just hitting buttons with my face not in the thing and then checking in occasionally.
You were gambling on the fight.
It was this thing where it's like I knew from what I knew I needed. I think part of why I went and checked the manual and discovered, oh, I'm missing a whole set of controls, was because so the second boss does this thing where normally he has a head where heads go, and then every so often it moves down to like his stomach.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And so it's like, okay, clearly I got to punch him in his Quaid summoning mouth. And I can't actually, and I was like, thing where I'm like, I know what I need to hit. I can't get a punch to go there.
Huh.
All my punches are just are aiming at where the head should be. And so I kind of went back and looked through. It's like, okay, I definitely need to check the manual, read through that fully. Kind of came back, and even with a sort of conceptual idea of what I wanted to have happen, it didn't feel like it was happening when I was trying to make it happen.
Okay. I mean, I'm sad because that moment I think is one of my favorites because he's like this big gorilla thing, and like you said, the head will go down to his abdomen, so you have to punch him in the gut, which will pop his head out of the top of his neck, and you have to like do like a hook right when it lands to get a really good hit. So it's kind of like that. What's it called when is it skeet shooting when you go like pull?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like it felt like that, like pull and then clobber him. Cyril, do you have a favorite robot opponent in this game?
Yeah, I wrote down two. I like you brought up Bomb Coon. That one's really cool because he actually have it has a bomb strapped to his body that's counting down, and it changes up the dynamic of that quite a bit. I also like that his age is 527 for some reason.
And his sex is question mark.
Yeah, I had seen the point raised that because I also went to go check, like, am I missing something here? And the bits of advice that I found didn't help. One of the points that I did see, though, was that for most of these, you can just outlast them. You don't actually have, which is different from like the Mike Tyson thing where it's like, nope, you're both still standing, therefore you lose.
Right.
With the one exception, like, except for the one that blows up. That one you kind of have to beat.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other one I really liked was Ikanger? Ikanger?
Yes.
I don't know how to pronounce that.
The kangaroo.
It's the robot kangaroo that has a little Joey in its pouch. And I love the idea that it reacts differently if you go after the Joey. It's one of the few fighting game characters where it's sort of built around protecting another person.
Yeah.
And that was really ingenious.
I presume that Hugh Jackman is controlling that one.
only every Christmas. My favorite, like Bomb Coon is so fun too, because the way that fight works is that it's a single round. And and he's not that good of a fighter. Like you're getting pretty good easy hits on him, unless you're Mike. And so
We don't
uh,
know I would lose to him.
that's true. You might be able to take him. But in the last 10 seconds, he just stops fighting. He throws his hands up and laughs
Yeah.
at you. And so that's the time to use your super attacks where you hold down both D-pads in, I guess you'd say, the same direction. So you either hold them both away, both to the center, both down, or both up. And your fist will flash after like half a second. You get this really fun, like kind of ding dong sound. And then you can pa, 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 do this machine gun punch where they're just glass and sparks flying and the sound's really good and their whole body's getting rocked. So that's really fun that you really get to cut loose on him. I thought that Prin and Cherie, the French characters, they're wild because she kind of has like a moving hip and sort of a sachet, kind of a very feminine body. And then, Cyril, do you recall her super attack? Because I've never experienced anything like this in VR before.
No, I don't remember. I The only thing I remember about her is that she had real prominent breasts and a vagina.
Well, okay, you know what? You creep.
You didn't?
I didn't
Well, boy,
see
my eyes
the
went right there.
I didn't see the vagina until you just pointed it out. But her super attack is to lower her hands by her side and do a barrage of breast missiles,
Oh yeah, that's right.
hitting you in the face over and over again. And
Sort of
like
like
it
a fembot thing.
kind of a fembot thing,
Mhm.
yeah. So if you can't appreciate that, like, come on, get on my level.
I was amused that there are more fighters that have an unspecified gender than there are female fighters.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, the Bomb Coon's pilot Picky is a reference to Japanese comedian Takashi Kitano's characters on Takashi Castle. So that was a reference
Oh.
to Japanese television. And then, yeah, you mentioned the third opponent, the German robot who shoots its like hat at you. That's kind of fun because its pilot ends up being another robot, and it's just like AI piloting AI is like, well, it used to be science fiction, but we're kind of nearing that.
Machines controlling machines.
The final boss fight, I gasped in delight because so I've played through this game a second time, and here it is, and it says like the time to fight the champion. It waits for you, and you get to the screen that's supposed to show your opponent, and it's just blank, and there's no data. It's all question marks. You enter the arena, and the arena is empty, and you're like, "Where's my opponent?" And then this giant cat robot just boom lands in front of you and it's swatting at you and it has a ton of life. So you're just wailing on it. And I bring it down and the cat robot explodes. And in the background, wearing the VR headset controlling the cat robot is an actual cat that's
Mhm.
just stretching and playing. And I was just like, that is hilarious. That really immersed me because I started thinking about how good cats have like those fast reflexes when they're swatting you. And I was just like, how that is peak Nintendo humor. I loved it so much.
That should have been what happened at the end of Real Steel.
Ex exactly. 100%.
The robots, they're cute, but they're also genuinely menacing.
Yes.
And I think they're well made. I think there are only 8 of them, or well, I guess 9 if you include yourself, I suppose. But um, there aren't that many of them. But also, this is, for all intents and purposes, it's a portable game released in the mid '90s, and I mean, if you go back and play any of those Game Boy games from the early days, they're not very long.
No. No, yeah, definitely a product of its time that it's kind of limited. But I also just loved all the moments that the game thoughtfully showed off the 3D effect. So like we mentioned the breast attack, but then also like you have moments like when you duck, you'll notice that the track lights above you, you get a new angle on them. So it really makes it feel like you're in that room.
Mhm.
When you lose a fight, that last punch breaks through the screen and gets a little closer than all the other ones, and your screen shatters. And it's like that's all so cool. And I disagree with Mike. I'm sad Mike had such a hard time with it because to me this is way better than Punch Out.
Whoa.
Once you get used to controlling each fist independently, and once you get used to blocking and dodging, I mean, I'll be honest, I never really got the hang of dodging, but once you learn how to like block high and low and punch the gut and punch the face, I really got into a rhythm and made this feel more like an actual fighting game, whereas Punch Out is so rhythm based. Punch Out's like learn the pattern, do the pattern. This one, I felt like I was playing my other VR boxing game, and that's a huge compliment. I really like how this game plays.
Well, I wondered about that because back in the day, obviously, when people first played it, it was unusual to have a game that was basically a dual D-pad. I mean, there had been twin stick shooters before that. Smash TV came out a few years before that, and Robotron and stuff like that. But obviously, like on home consoles, you didn't really do the dual D-pad very often, and this was a time before even analog sticks were out. So I was curious to see if people would have an easier time in 2026 because they're more used to that now with first person shooters and just other games in general. And so I'm happy to hear that you didn't have a real problem with that, because some of the reviews back in the day had issues with that design.
No, Mike did. I mean,
Well,
I mean, once I found out where it had mapped things and remapped it, it addressed that part of the problem.
yeah, but I mean, I still like you kind of still struggle with like, well, punching the gut when I want to punch the gut. Like the timing and the aiming never really clicked for you.
Yeah,
And
and some of the I actually went and checked another game just to feel, because it felt non-responsive to me,
okay.
and it was like, is this just a console thing? And I switched to something else, and it was like, okay, no, this one feels closer to from when I hit the button to a thing happens.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a delay, but I think it's intentional because like your fists are flying or whatever. So
Right.
I think we're segueing into Joy Cons. Anything else we want to praise about the game? We talked about the fighting, the graphics, and the characters, and that's kind of all there is to it.
I do like the pacing. You brought up Bomb Coon, and you have to remember that one. I think that's the one right after the third boss, right? That's
Yeah,
the fourth. The Bomb Coon's the fourth boss, or the
correct.
fourth fighter, and that third boss that's the one where you realize, oh, this is going to be tough.
Yeah.
That's where I'd say, I mean, the first one is basically training wheels. And then the second one makes you think, it forces you to memorize and come up with formulate a strategy. But it's not, sorry, Mike, it's
Yeah,
not that hard. But the third one is where they put those and then they just ramp that difficulty up to 1,000. And I feel like once you get past that, they realized, all right, you need a break. Here's Bomb Coon. It's a fun little fighter. It's not that hard. You'll probably beat it in your first or second attempt. And they realized you needed a little bit of a calm after you needed that easy stage. And I like that they were thinking about that. And I think that's just the experience that Sakamoto brought to it.
Yeah, but I mean, to segue the Joy Cons though, one thing that kind of frustrated me is that I felt like there needed to be something in between these fights. I needed the Doc Lewis giving me a tip. I needed the trick where you could press the select button, have him pat me on the shoulder and gain health. I
Mhm.
really hate the way this game handles the life recovery mechanic. Mike,
Yeah.
do you know what I'm talking about? Can you speak to that?
I mean, I don't know what you're talking about because you're saying what you hate about it.
Okay, I mean, so between every round, it says take a break.
Right.
And you have two options. You can choose automatic pause or automatic pause can be turned on or off. And this is Nintendo wanting you to take your face out of the VR thing after every 60 seconds, which is like if you develop a console, you have to look away from every 60 seconds. I don't know if you should have built this thing.
It was ill conceived.
Ill conceived, but what a concept. What a concept. There you go, Mike. But so if you choose automatic pause off, between rounds, your opponent gains health and you don't. If you choose automatic pause on, you both gain health.
If it's on off, I believe it's that you can hit buttons to gain health, and I think it's you can outgain the opponent in that.
Oh, was there a mini game I missed?
You can also skip it directly so that the opponent does not gain health.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Which is,
Okay.
so there's a little bit of a strategy there that maybe you want to keep that opponent lower. And you also, as the song plays, you gain your health back, and the opponent only gains half of the song's health back.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's 10 seconds or however long it is, but they get 5 seconds of life back, and then it caps it there. Whereas you're getting that 10 more or that 5 more seconds. You're getting the full 10
Oh,
seconds.
okay.
Yeah.
I like this game even more. There was a whole mechanic I missed out on.
I will agree with you though that it probably could have used a mini game or something between, like maybe a bonus game or something between that. I don't know, added a little bit to the lore and also gave you some variety. And maybe if this wasn't a launch game, maybe if this was a second generation game or something like that, it would have had it. I don't know.
I think if this game was released in modern days, there'd definitely be a training mode.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I don't know if that was a thing back then, but it definitely would have
Not really.
benefited from it. So
That's what you
Mike,
got instruction manuals for.
yeah. So Mike, what else? Is there anything else you didn't like about it? I mean, if you can't control where your punches go, it's gonna be a hard sell.
Yeah, yeah. When it hits the point where, like, I need to hit there, every combination feels like it's not reliably doing that.
Yeah. And so, we alluded to it before, but it's very bare bones.
Mhm.
There's no survival mode, no time attack. You can't even choose your opponent. You just go through all 8 over and over again. And it's like I would love to have my friend Kyle come over because he's curious about the Virtual Boy. I'd love to put him against Bombcoon. And I guess I'm gonna play and create a save state right before it, you know what I mean? But like that's kind of annoying. And then, any fighting game that's single player, it's like a single player racing game. It just feels kind of meh, you know. I also didn't love the stun system. If you take too many hits in a row, you have trouble blocking, and it's like I get you want to create the tension of, oh my gosh, this is really getting away from me, but I kind of feel like if I'm getting hit a lot, take away my ability to attack so that I have to defend. But to make it even harder to stop the onslaught, it felt unfair.
I'll mention at this point in it, because this is where I associate it with it, as a prelude of things to come. Like, one of the reviews that Cyril's video covers does compare this to Super Punch Out.
Yeah.
And in my mind, that was very apt into my not liking it.
Okay.
And honestly, also being like, yeah, JMO's going to like this.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this is the top of the heap. This is better than either Punch Out.
Well, for those of us who did not listen to the episode where you compared Punch Out and Super Punch Out, what didn't you like about Super Punch Out that you did like with the original Punch Out?
I think, really, frankly, because Punch Out is the learn the patterns, figure it out kind of thing, which, it almost moves towards the same family as a rhythm game,
Definitely.
whereas Super Punch Out moves much more heavily towards a fighting game, which I generally don't have fun with, and JMO does.
Oh yeah, baby. That's my genre.
Yeah, I get
Yeah.
that.
And so, yeah, my Joy-Con is that they haven't made more of these. I really like Teleroboxer, which is impressive. Well, we'll get to it in our final rankings here. So, guys, I think we're going to call that game over for today. Ready to move on to our rankings?
Sure.
Yep.
Okay, so let's brings us to the moment of truth. We've covered the Joy Pros, the Joy Cons, and every bit in between. So it's time to declare today's game and peripheral system. Let's rank that as well. Mike, can we start with you? Let's do the Nintendo Virtual Boy peripherals. Nintendo or NintenDO'N'T?
I mean, they're a Nintendo have to, because it won't let you check it out without the peripherals.
But is it worth it?
I think so. I mean, it's certainly, even at the $100, like, that is cheaper than it's going to be to get a original Virtual Boy at this point.
Okay.
Even back in the day,
Yeah.
half the price.
It's wild that it feels so expensive, but it's like the most affordable it's ever to play these games. It's never been more affordable unless you use illegal emulation. I
Yeah.
think I'm a Nintendo for the peripheral, but I do think you're probably fine with the cardboard one because the $100 one, I was expecting it to be more comfortable, and it just kind of isn't, unless, like I said, you're gonna lay down in bed with it, which just feels really dorky. And at that point, it's like, why not just lay down in bed with the cardboard one and just kind of lay there and, I think you're fine to get the cardboard version. Don't get the VR headset knockoff versions on Amazon. Those things hurt.
It might be all right if you've got one of those, like, stands that they make for using, like, a computer at a couch.
Yeah.
Like, that might actually be the fix, but that's a whole extra thing.
Yeah, but you know what though? I mean, I intend to beat all these games one day, so I might just invest in myself and look into that. Cyril, Teleroboxer, Nintendo or NintenDO'N't?
I say Nintendo. I
Nice.
like this one. Look, don't get me wrong. You're not going to play this and come out of it saying that it's the best game you've ever played. This is a B or maybe even a B minus, but it's still, I'd say, back in the day, I thought it was pretty good. It's from my listing, now people that don't know, on defunctgames.com and also the YouTube channel, we have a series called Review Crew where we look at what the critics said back when these games first came out, and we come up with the average based on their scores. And the overall average for this game is 72%, which may not sound that great, but it's the only one behind of the Virtual Boy games that are out right now. It's the only one. It's like in second place after Wario Land, which is at 75%. So it's right behind. It's pretty close. I think that I would say that it's definitely one of the top 3 Virtual Boy games.
Okay. Okay. Well, Mike, where is your Nintendo and NintenDO'N'T ranking for Teleroboxer, and where did you put it on our and standings of all the games ranked that we've played so far?
For me, like the only thing this really has as a saving grace for it is looking neat on the Virtual Boy, but I would rather play almost any game we have played over this.
Oh my God, are you talking bottom? I feel like you're talking about bottom
Really?
5.
Yeah, it is my 4th lowest. It is very much
Woo!
a Nintendo for
Wow.
me. I never like, and part of that is even like I did beat one. I didn't feel any joy or satisfaction in the one I beat either. Like just it wasn't fun when I was losing. It wasn't fun the one time I won.
Hold on. Okay. Did you play any of the other, and maybe this is a spoiler for future episodes, but did you play any of the other Virtual Boy games?
We haven't. This is our first Virtual Boy game,
Okay.
Yeah.
so there
Okay.
none of those are on here
But
yet.
you just like in not a podcast capacity, but just in your off time, you didn't try any of the other ones?
I checked out the pinball a little bit to see if
Okay.
the lack of response was a uniform thing, and I
Okay.
did not feel it. And because
Yeah.
I was like, am I judging it harshly for a Virtual Boy emulation thing?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you haven't played Red Alarm.
No.
No.
Well, we'll have to tune in for
Yeah.
that episode to see if you like that even less. Because that's the one that gives me a real headache.
So to be clear, for Mike's rankings, he placed Teleroboxer 99th out of 101, right, Mike?
Insanity.
102.
102.
Hold on, what's the lowest one?
Xevious. But also for context,
And
though,
Super Ghouls and Ghosts is the second one. Oh.
Mike's list
Oh.
Mike's list is true insanity. But you know
Voted
what?
off the island.
So Mike said that Teleroboxer is better than Flicky and worse than Congo's Caper. You hear that, Ryan? Well, you know what? This is why I'm glad the ant standings are a thing, because Mike's wrong.
Hold on
This
here.
this is a Nintendo.
Virtue. Oh.
This game, I know, Cyril, right? Isn't
I'm
Mike
looking
drive
at
you?
that and it's craziness.
Doesn't Mike drive you insane?
Oh.
But I appreciate him because he and I are so different, and that's I love you, Mike. I think that's why this works, baby. So,
What's his number one?
Pokemon Snap. That's a good number
I
one.
would never have guessed that. Now, don't get me wrong. Not saying it's a bad game. It's in fact the only Pokemon game I've played. But yeah, Pokemon came out when I was an adult.
Well, so I ranked Teleroboxer much higher. I think it's a Nintendo. I think it's fast. I think it's fun. The characters are cool. This is what I wished Punch Out had been. I think this is better than either of those games. And so looking at my and standings,
Where's
I
that?
ended up pretty high
34.
on it because I think it's better than Fighter's History because that's such a shameless Street Fighter 2 ripoff that I kind of
Wow.
don't want to give it too much credit. But I don't think I can say it's better than the first 3 Mega Man games combined plus a 4th bonus game that changes the gameplay. That was just such a solid offer. So I ranked it 34th out of 102.
I worked on the re-release of Mega Man: The Wily Wars
Heck yeah, dude.
when
Cyril,
Retrobit brought that out.
yeah, you did. You're amazing, dude. So that
Where does that put
means
it?
that our combined
Oh.
and standing, not Mike, not JMO, but the and in between places Teleroboxer at Mike, you bastard.
Oh, you mic'd it way down, didn't he?
It's 72nd above Star Fox and below Mappy Land.
Above Star Fox?
Below Mappy Land. Woo!
Hold on. I feel like I'm speaking for the audience here. How did Star Fox wind up that low?
So here's what you got to do, Cyril. You got to listen to our episode where we covered the rankings. There's a whole light switch episode, and all of this is on www.theoldswitcharoo.com. But wow, Mike, heads are gonna roll over this one.
And your top is Mario Kart 64?
Yeah, that's a
What am I
fantastic.
doing? What are we doing here?
You have been on the old switcheroo, buddy boy, and you know what?
It's not even the best Mario Kart on the.
You can complain all you want, but we already got this episode out of you. Okay, so
Diddy Kong Racing for the win.
We haven't covered it yet.
It's not available yet.
It's not, and it's not going to beat Mario Kart 64, right,
Mike?
Mike?
Well,
Mike, fist bump,
I did an episode where I looked at what the critics said and that reviewed both of them, and in fact, it did beat Mario Kart 64.
Well,
pretty handily too.
I mean, history's never been correct before, so why would it start now? Guys, we're going to call that game over for today. Cyril, thank you so much for joining us once again. Before you get out of here, would you like to remind our listeners where they can pre-order your book or check out your other content?
Yes, you can, of course, still pre-order the book while I write it. The complete cheat code compendium is available for pre-order through Kickstarter. If you don't want to type that in, you can just go to defunctgames.com. The link is right at the right on the front page. Just look for the big picture of it, and click on that. It'll go right to the Kickstarter. And and just for anybody that's curious, the Nintendo 64 DD sold 15,000 units.
There you go. And then defunctgames.com for all of your retro content and your YouTube. We'll link it all in the show notes.
And we do modern reviews that are mostly indie related. We're getting back into it.
It's got it all. Defunctgames.com. Check it out. And guys, that all sounds excellent. Everyone join us next time for an all-timer, Earthbound on the SNES. And as of time of recording, it was our 100th game. So it is a just fantastic episode and a fantastic moment. And everyone, thank you for joining us for this long but awesome episode. Don't forget to visit www.theoldswitcharoo.com. There you can find links to our Spotify, our Discord, YouTube, TikTok, and all the social medias you can shake a joystick at. Big thanks to Crystal Fields for our incredible intro song. And please, dear listener, don't forget to like and subscribe. Every click means a lot, and you mean a lot to us. Until next time, this has been the Old Switcheroo. We've been talking gaming retro with Mike and Jaymo.
I've been Mike.
And I've been Jaymo. Game on, everyone. Oh, I get why Mike hit record. Oh my God. Cyril, your reaction to hearing Mike start recording was classic, and then you kept talking. Oh my God.